this country. Why you don't want to put it in there? Why you don't want to put the fees that you're going to charge poor people in there? In this day of age of transparency, that is just simply not good enough. The public is entitled to the specifics in the body of the act. Madam Speaker, just a couple of points to deal with some of the specific examples. He said I lie, but I'm not going to call him lie. Just to deal with the misrepresentation before, Madam Speaker, I wind up. Regarding whether there was a plan for the running of Mount St. John, Honourable Member for St. John's Wool North said there was no plan. The question to the chairman was very specific. Was there an operational plan? The chairman at the time responding, Madam Speaker, that the preparation of the plan was in progress. And that was the precise reason why the board hired CEO Robert Fisher, Chief Financial Officer Steve Konigsberg, and other consultants also being paid by the board. But specifically, Madam Speaker, the board was looking at a number of different options in terms of the makeup of the operations and the financial plan. The minister's report on the answer from the chairman was a blatant lie, Madam Speaker. It's not true. And from what I hear, that he said the chairman is very upset, that also was thoroughly misrepresented. But, Madam Speaker, another blatant misrepresentation. Madam Speaker, it was John McGinley, the Honourable Member for St. John's Wool North, and the UPP team that came up with the electronic medical records. From the inception, Madam Speaker, from the inception in the early days of planning, before construction even started, when Lester Bird and Alan Stanford and Joy John sat down in Houston, Texas, with Watkins, Carter and Hamilton, the architects, it was made clear to everyone, abundantly and pellucidly clear, that Mount St. John was going to be a totally paperless and filmless hospital. Everything will be computerized. That is why a PSCS system was part of the Siemens deal, Madam Speaker. The entire, Madam Speaker, the Siemens equipment was totally digital. Totally digital. The entire medical records, the pharmacy, the billing, and every other aspect of the hospital was designed to be paperless. And you know that. The software had not been purchased yet, Madam Speaker, because the computers and the software were in the final batch of equipment to be supplied. But don't come here and say that we never intended it to be paperless or filmless, and you did it. Don't claim credit that you don't deserve. Nonetheless, Madam Speaker, we had already met with groups to advise on which software would facilitate seamless operations. And we also had quotations as well, Madam Speaker. Two of the companies were listener. Two of the companies that we spoke to, Madam Speaker, was a subsidiary of Everest Consultants, as well as Apollo Health Highway. You ever heard of that? Apollo Health Highway. Genesis Healthcare was heavily involved in this. You never heard of Genesis neither? Oh, you've heard of Genesis. Madam Speaker, Mount St. John was always going to be paperless, filmless, a hospital to the point where if a nurse or doctor ordered a test on one floor, it would be done on the computer, Madam Speaker. And at the time they called Joy John crazy, pie in the sky, dreamer. Where are you going with that big hospital? Madam Speaker, when the test was done, it automatically would get transmitted to the patient's bill electronically. All that was finalized and arranged. You didn't come and do that. The clear intention was always, Madam Speaker, always a paperless operation from inception. You know, it shows how clearly out of touch that this Honourable Minister was and has been in terms of the state-of-the-art Mount St. John project when the UPP took over. On the issue now, Madam Speaker, of accreditation, when the board sought to hire a CEO, we looked high and low, Madam Speaker, for someone with credentials who had an impeccable track record of turning around hospitals in the US, who did not have JACIO accreditation to get them accredited. Bob Fisher was that person. And in 2 instances in his previous life, he was able to bring hospitals, Madam Speaker, to be accredited. The same Bob Fisher did the one out of Antigua. Madam Speaker, the Joint Commission of Accreditation of Healthcare Organization in the strictest hospital accreditation and policy body in the entire world. And that American body has an international arm. That the GCAHO International on hiring Fisher, it was made clear to him that the operational plan, and something I'm not hearing from the other side, Madam Speaker, the medical service delivery had to be of a standard that we could have received certification within 2 years of opening. Bob Fisher thought that this was possible, if not in 2 years, Madam Speaker, then in 3 years. Madam Speaker, it's not true. It's not fair. It's not fair for the minister to parade over there as though it's some new idea. Means he does not want to admit, to this country, Madam Speaker, the advanced state in which he met the project. Or is it that he simply does not have a clue what was really going on? Or he wants to take credits for ideas that do not belong to him? Madam Speaker, that is wrong. That is dishonest, Madam Speaker. Or is it incompetent? Take your pick, but get real. You talk about accreditation, but Madam Speaker, he has done absolutely nothing to stem the tide of negligent deaths that he just wants to gloss over as just a few cases. Just a few cases. No big deal. People die up there every day. No big deal. No big deal. Misdiagnosed. And Madam Speaker, it is the patients themselves who come to us with their medical records, those of the departed loved ones, and beg us to expose the scandals, Madam Speaker. It's not because we want to come in here and shame anyone. It's not because we want to come in here and name anyone, Madam Speaker. But those people, the family of those patients who have died, that are being victimized. And Madam Speaker, I want to say to the Prime Minister, when you move from Halberton to Mount St. John, what will change, Mr. Prime Minister, with the same doctors who are now responsible for the killing fields that are taking place? The accreditation? The accreditation is going to change it? You had better be careful that they don't recommend that the entire operation up there be shut down before it even open. And another thing, Madam Speaker, the minister is talking about setting up patient rights. That is the most basic part, fundamental bylaws of any hospital. That's not something to brag about. Now that we are on the subject of patients' rights, Madam Speaker, why is it for the last 5 years that patients at Halberton and their families have had such huge difficulties getting their medical records? The most basic of patient rights. And when they go over there at Halberton and they want a copy of the medical records, it's a long bureaucratic red tape. Come back tomorrow, next week, and the week never come. You know, Mr. Minister, do you know, I wish if the Attorney General was here, that there are people who have spent at least 6 to 8 months trying to get medical records out of Halberton. And let me tell you, Mr. Lebrecht-Hesse will tell you that it got so bad in terms of the delay tactics that were being used that the hospital used to write to the ministry asking medical records could be released. Can you imagine that? The hospital actually writing to Lebrecht-Hesse, the Solicitor General, and asking him if it's okay to release patients' records. What a thing.
Honourable Member, you're going to have to ask the House for more time.
Yes, Madam Speaker. Can I have 30 more minutes, Madam Speaker? No, Madam Speaker. But why you don't want to hear? But why are you behaving like a dictator again? Madam Speaker, can I have 15 minutes left?
No, the House has to decide
Can I
on
have
that
15
properly.
minutes? Madam Speaker, there was a lot of disturbance.